Back in 2017, in the Seminole Heights community down in Tampa, Florida, there were a series of killings. And it had the neighbors and everyone really very uneasy that there was a serial killer lurking somewhere in the neighborhood. There were some grainy videos and really terrorized everyone. Prosecutors, investigators believe they've caught the killer. They're getting ready for that trial. Seema Iyer has more.
In the heart of bustling Tampa is Seminole Heights. For nearly 2 months in 2017, it was home to fear and terror.
This is a city that had just lived through Irma and has now spent the last 51 days dealing with a serial killer.
These are the faces of his victims: Benjamin Mitchell, Monica Hoffa, Anthony Naiboa, and Ronald Felton, all shot to death.
For 51 days, we had a neighborhood that was held hostage. We had neighbors that were living in fear. We had families that were devastated.
Mitchell was the first victim, shot near a bus stop. Hoffa's body was found in a parking lot. Naiboa was killed while walking home, and Felton died shot in the back. The victims had no apparent connection, except they were all killed within a half mile of one another while they were walking alone. The slayings, unprovoked and random, had investigators and the community desperate to catch the killer. A $110,000 reward was posted. The break in the case came from a tip at this McDonald's restaurant. An employee here gave the manager a bag for safekeeping. Inside the bag, a loaded 9mm handgun.
That firearm was used in all 4 murders.
The gun led police to 24-year-old Howell Trey Donaldson III. Tampa investigators interrogated Donaldson for hours. Donaldson admitted he owned the gun, but denied he committed the murders.
Do you owe these families an explanation?
We're gonna know. The gun's gonna come back. We're gonna know.
Are you responsible for this?
No.
Because it's the gun, okay? You murdered those people. Your phone puts you right there at specific times. We know it's you. Can you please tell us why?
The question goes unanswered, and the conversation ends when Donaldson invokes his right to counsel.
I just don't know anything else to say. I just want to, I guess, talk to my attorney.
Donaldson's parents shaken by his arrest.
We're people of faith, and we're going to lean on our faith as we go through this ordeal, and we're going to allow God to be God.
Anybody that knows Trey knows that's not Trey. He doesn't have the personality of that character. That's not my son, that's my baby.
Their son was a graduate of St. John's University. He was a member of the school's basketball team in 2011. The Donaldsons are standing by their child. They have visited him frequently, providing encouragement and support while he is behind bars awaiting trial. In these jailhouse conversations, the younger Donaldson appears focused only on himself.
You're trying to keep your strength up, you're exercising a little bit.
I'm so broken, I can't. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
I can't, man.
Yeah, try to.
Look, if I do it, my arm will break off. This is what I'm telling you.
Donaldson hasn't admitted to any of the shootings, seemingly more concerned about his own well-being during a court appearance.
Some unfortunate things to happen to me, and since I've been in there, I've become ill, physically ill. I'm an ex-college athlete, and it's hard for me to stand right now. I'm 26 years old. I shouldn't be feeling like I'm 96 years old. I feel like, you know, if I'm in there much longer, that my heart and my body won't be able to last under what I've been enduring.
Harold Schechter, an expert on serial killers, has authored several books on the subject. Schechter says Donaldson's alleged crimes are not typical of serial killers.
So I would tend to think of him more as a rampage killer, or possibly a spree killer, in addition to their inability to empathize with other human beings. You know, these kinds of personalities often are incapable of feeling any genuine remorse.
Donaldson is set to go on trial in a few months, set to face the families of the victims who lost their loved ones, and set to face the death penalty.
Do I want him to get the death penalty? That's hard for me. I'm a mother myself. It's hard. It's hard. But whatever comes its way, let it happen.
It's just having faith in first in God and then in the system that the right thing's going to be done and that there's going to be justice for what was done to our loved one, Monica.
Such a chilling story. I remember when this was happening back in 2017. That neighborhood was completely terrorized and locked down. People afraid to leave their homes. Let's bring in Seema. Seema, was there any connection between the victims and the defendant, the victims and each other? Anything that makes sense here?
At least not that we have uncovered or researched. It doesn't seem like any of the victims knew each other. This all happened within that half-mile radius or area, plus all in the Seminole Heights neighborhood, everybody walking home. And I don't think Donaldson, knew any of them either. And I think what's also interesting is that none of the victims fit an exact profile, right? Men, women, differing ages. I think one gentleman was 60. So nothing really seems to click.
What else do we know about the defendant? You mentioned that he was a former basketball player at St. John's. That's big time basketball. That's,
unbelievable.
D1.
Right.
What else do we know about his life?
Right.
He's working at McDonald's?
I know, and I know you definitely the basketball expert here, so you know how impressive that is. College educated. You saw the parents, Vinny. They said their faith, but they were church-going people. Parents are together. Comes from a really good home. It seems like, really like a middle-class background, regular guy. The only thing, and Vinny, I say this and you know that I've represented hundreds of mentally ill indigent defendants, and it was a big part of my practice, and still I keep, work on pro bono cases. I think, and this is what I've read and I've learned, that 25 years old is often the breaking point for men, where they experience some type of psychotic break. So in my professional opinion, that could be what is happening with Donaldson, because he is around that age, especially in 2017. I think he was 24 or 25. But there's nothing to explain this type of behavior. And it's also consistent with the mom saying, that's not my baby, because this is not the person that she knows.
Now, you spoke with Harold Schechter, really fascinating guest expert, and you talked to him about motivation for serial killers. Let's listen to that.
There have been other examples of criminals who, again, just derive this sick pleasure from driving around and randomly shooting at people or sniping at them, sniping at drivers from the highway. Again, there's some sense of power, I think, that they derive from that kind of crime.
So is there any answer to the question why here, either from the expert or from prosecutors and what they're alleging here? Okay, well, I think, and you're going to, I know, play more of that interview, but I think it's really clear that what Schechter is saying, it sounds like there are these two types of personalities that do these type of acts. One is someone who I was describing as perhaps schizophrenic and has that mental break. And the other is just the criminal, the antisocial personality disorder, the sociopath who, as he said, derives this sick pleasure in these systematic killings.